As you all know by now, Tekashi 6ix9ine is currently in jail, but many expect him to get out soon because of his plea deal with the government. But just because he's getting out, does that mean he won't go back to jail at all? Not so much. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Of superseding information as well as additional crimes that the defendant has told the government about.
6ix9ine and the law.
6ix9ine. He's a popular rapper and a gang member who recently pled guilty to 9 felonies.
So, what is there to say about 6ix9ine when it comes to the law? You know, outside of the fact that he has spent a vast majority of his life just doing everything he could to avoid the law, get arrested, you know, that kind of stuff. What else is there? Well, a lot, obviously. Hence, why we're doing this video in the first place. I mean, come on, we've all heard it, and at one point you've likely thought it. The thought that every rapper in the world is a criminal or ends up in jail at one point or another. It's a stereotype, and a terrible one. Yes, there are a lot of rappers out there in the world who have a criminal record, some of them even paraded around. But in truth, to stereotype everyone just because of what those ones did is just as bad. There are plenty of good rappers who haven't gone to jail. Drake is a great example of this. He's lived a relatively clean life outside of some small incidents, and he's never gone to jail. 6ix9ine, on the other hand, is the kind of rapper who believes that going to jail is a mark of honor and that he's above the law, which we all know he's not. Then when he gets into jail, he starts snitching on everyone.
That Jim was affiliated, and also brought up Cardi B. I think there was other names in there too.
I mean, you should be relieved he hasn't said you're part of the Nine Trey Bloods. But anyways, when someone bashes him online, he lashes out like he wanted this to happen. Smell the contradiction here? The point is, 6ix9ine has had a lot of troubles with the law, but he keeps getting off the hook because of technicalities and luck. Don't believe me on that? Well, let me give you a history lesson. His first major charge.
Like somebody, when these charges come up, it's like, oh my God, he's a monster. You know what I'm saying?
If we're being technical, the first charge that 6ix9ine ever got was an illegal possession and distribution charge he had when he was just 13. He did indeed go to jail, but it wasn't as big a deal as his other offenses. And ironically, that would be one of the lower crimes that he would be charged with over time. Makes you wonder what would have happened if he had just stuck to that, instead of all the other stuff he's done over the years. If we want to talk about his first serious charge, then we have to go a few years later into the future. This was before he hooked up with the Nine Trey Bloods and seriously became a rapper. But even back then, he knew that the image of a rapper was what he needed to have in order to be famous. So what did he do to acquire said image? He went and made a music video. But to get controversy to it, he brought in a couple of ladies to do some explicit things, if you know what I mean. Now, technically, this wouldn't have been an offense on its own, given the somewhat graphic nature involved in this video. However, the ladies that were in the video, they were actually young girls, as in under 18, which means that 6ix9ine had minors in an explicit video, which is most definitely illegal for reasons I really hope I don't have to explain. He was charged for many things and went to court, but to his luck, he was able to get a plea deal, one that wouldn't give him any jail time if he did community service, got his GED, and apologized to the family. He did do some of those things, but he refused to get his GED, which meant he violated the plea deal and should have gone to jail. But because of delays, appeals, and more technicalities, that never happened. That was just the beginning of his luck with the law, as you'll see, the charges that followed. So where do we go from here? Well, once he joined the Nine Trey Bloods, he continued to get in more and more trouble with the law, more than he'll admit or want to confess to. But here are a few of the greatest hits. During a regular day in Texas, 6ix9ine was going through an area and some fans spotted him. One young teen was there and decided to go and get a video of 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine noticed this, got up in his face with 2 bodyguards, demanded that the video be deleted, and even threatened physical violence onto him if he didn't. Naturally, the teen refused, as he had every right to make that video, and so 6ix9ine lunged out and grabbed his neck and started a whole scene. Now, because 6ix9ine wasn't in Texas for a long time, an arrest couldn't be made, but a warrant was put out for him. Fast forward a little while later to New York, and 6ix9ine was pulled over for driving without a license, and was promptly brought back to Texas to be charged for assault. Now, believe it or not, the kid that 6ix9ine choked out came to the court and begged the judge not to charge him with anything.
Mr. Bobs, Houston, I love you, you hear me?
Does that make sense? No. Except that after the trial, 6ix9ine and the kid took a picture together, all but confirming that 6ix9ine either paid him off or got him to rescind in some way to make this go away. I wish I could tell you that this was the end of his senseless crimes, but it wasn't. He had multiple driving incidents, he hurt a cop once who was trying to detain him, and more. 6ix9ine was literally a magnet for this kind of thing, and most ironically of all, he was just getting started. The Nine Trey Bloods.
Just weeks after 6ix9ine testified against his former associates, Anthony Harv Ellison and Aljamiah Nuke Mack of the Nine Trey Bloods.
In many ways, this is where 6ix9ine's story really takes off. As I mentioned earlier, 6ix9ine is obsessed with not just being a rapper, but having the quote image of a rapper, and that means having more than just a solid look, decent music, and a following. You have to have people on the streets who are willing to back your play, say that you mean something, and more. But because of his upbringing, 6ix9ine didn't have that, so he decided to go seek it out, and that's where he met the Nine Trey Bloods. This was a group based in New York that had their hands in all sorts of illegal properties, but of course that didn't deter 6ix9ine. Rather, that just helped him make his decision, as that meant they had influence that they could use to boost up 6ix9ine's image and get him into the rap world. Funny enough, he made a good choice, as they were able to get him what he wanted. 6ix9ine was hooked up with a manager and more, and his music career began, with some strings attached of course. First and foremost, the Nine Trey Bloods would go and get a large cut of his profits, which 6ix9ine didn't seem to mind too much at first, but also, he would follow their lead, do what they did, and help to protect the group if necessary. This agreement led to a variety of incidents involving 6ix9ine, the Nine Trey Bloods, and various other rappers and groups across the country. The number of incidents was so great that there were arrests and investigations all over the place. But did 6ix9ine care? No. Not only did he not care, he tried to go and get things done with the crew and even organize some attacks on people he had beef with, which he honestly shouldn't have done. But I never said he was the brightest bulb in the bunch. The point is, with the Nine Trey Bloods, he was more reckless and dangerous than ever. He needed to be stopped, and that's where the FBI stepped in, getting the plea deal.
6ix9ine was famously arrested in November 2018 and turned state's witness a day later.
On November 18th, 2018, the FBI launched an arrest movement on both 6ix9ine and the Nine Trey Bloods, arresting both the rapper and several members of his former street crew, whom he fired 2 weeks earlier for a variety of reasons. The arrest made big news, and they were brought up on various charges, including illegal enterprise, conspiracy, and much more. The minimum that 6ix9ine would get if convicted of these charges was 47 years, and he could have also served life if he was convicted the right way. So he was going away for life until he wasn't. You see, the FBI are not fools like Die Hard would have led you to believe. They know that to convict hardened criminals like the Nine Trey Bloods, they needed definitive testimony from one of their own. But with a group like the Nine Trey Bloods, the code of silence is vital, because if one person talks, they all go down, and they thought that everyone knew that. Except 6ix9ine didn't care about that code. In fact, he didn't care one bit, because he was offered a plea deal by the FBI to rat out the members of the street crew and the Nine Trey Bloods as a whole, and in return he would be granted a much lesser sentence. Did you want to win any of these items on the screen? If so, be sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment the hidden message. And with that being said, let's get right back into the video. And possibly go free if he played his cards right. If there's one thing you can trust 6ix9ine to do all the time, every time, it's look out for himself. So he not only accepted the plea deal, he tried to get it done as quickly as possible, and went to work ratting out everyone that he could in order to get a lesser sentence. The rap world was stunned, to say the least, because that's not the kind of thing you would expect from a member of a group like that. But for 6ix9ine, he did what he had to do in order to get out, because he clearly didn't want to be in prison 1 minute longer than he had to be. Freedom.
Like, blood, I'm trying to be out. I'm trying to be out so I can take care of my kids, blood. Like,
So where exactly does that leave 6ix9ine right now? Well, it's kind of complicated. You see, right now 6ix9ine is still in prison, but his sentencing hearing is coming up on December 18th, which means his freedom could be coming whether we approve of it or not. But does he deserve that freedom? Based on the plea deal he signed, maybe. You see, when it came to being a snitch, 6ix9ine was a better singer than he ever was as a rapper. He spent months giving the FBI and prosecutors everything they could have possibly ever needed to book the Nine Trey Bloods. Never mind how this was a complete betrayal of trust, or how the rap community as a whole is furious over what 6ix9ine did. 6ix9ine did it, and he did it gladly. And if this hearing was next year and not in December, he would most assuredly keep snitching to better his case. If you believe 6ix9ine and his lawyer team, his release from prison is not only imminent, it's a sure thing. Now that's a tricky thing to say, because it's up to the judge to determine if he not only lived up to the plea deal he signed, but whether he's worthy of such an honor in regards to freedom. It's very possible that 6ix9ine could be given given additional time for various reasons, not the least of which is that he did have to plead guilty to the crimes he committed as a part of the Nine Trey Bloods. So technically speaking, he's already serving part of his sentence for his crimes, and the judge could see that he is truly unapologetic for what he has done to the people in New York City and beyond, and decide that he deserves more time behind bars. It honestly is hard to say at the present time. However, there is another way to look at this. Mainly, he could get himself locked up again not long after getting released, which, if we're being honest here, is something I would definitely bet on. The charges to come. But before we talk about the self-destruction that is 6ix9ine's future, there is another avenue that we really need to look down, and that is the fact that while 6ix9ine is soon to be released, more than likely for the charges thrown at him via the November 2018 arrest, that does not mean that he is free and clear from his law-breaking past. In fact, the opposite is true. Because he is being released from prison, he is now open to being charged with various other crimes, to the extent that some attorneys have come forward and said that they are preparing to issue charges against 6ix9ine thanks to new evidence. How is this possible? Well, it's complicated. You see, when 6ix9ine was arrested by the FBI, he had many cases pending against him, including the two I mentioned at the beginning of this list. When the FBI case was brought to the table, it was considered the bigger charge, and thus all the other cases against 6ix9ine were closed. That usually would mean they can't be reopened, but there is one catch to that clause: new evidence. That's right, if there was new evidence turned up in one of those closed cases, they can be reopened and retried, and that does appear to be what's going on here. Now, which cases are getting retried are a bit foggy right now, but if they're serious enough, they could throw a big monkey wrench into what 6ix9ine plans to do with his immediate future, which is exactly what many people are hoping happens, given his destructive nature and personality. Should these new cases prove fruitful, the felony convictions that 6ix9ine agreed to will come into play and give him a harsher sentence depending on the crime, which means that not long after 6ix9ine is released for one of the slew of charges, he could be jailed for another set of equally important charges. But is this fate inevitable? Technically no. But with 6ix9ine, well, what can 6ix9ine do to avoid his fate?
Decades in prison, but will likely receive a reduced sentence for his cooperation. His sentencing was moved up and is now set for December 2019.
I think it's fair to ask this question because we all need to believe, sometimes, that people can change, and that a harrowing experience like getting put in jail will get you to go straight. It's something the human race does to try and see good in the world. But does that mean that 6ix9ine can truly change? On one hand, 6ix9ine does have a career waiting for him for the most part in regards to his life as a rapper, meaning that he can immediately go back to making music the moment he gets out, which is something he definitely is wanting to do. There's even talk that he has a $10 million deal waiting for him when he gets out. That's huge, to say the least. Thus, if he stays on the path of music, if he does what he should do and keeps his nose down to not cause trouble and just make rap songs for people to listen to, he could stay out of jail. But a recent quote from 6ix9ine paints that as an unlikely situation, as he's already stirring up trouble in the rap community over the backlash of him being a snitch, and 6ix9ine is not one to go lightly on things, so he'll push until he gets pushed back, and that'll make him lash out in response. So if we're being honest, it's possible that 6ix9ine himself is going to be the one getting 6ix9ine in trouble, as he struggles to control his mind and body sometimes. A cautionary tale. In all walks of life, there are cautionary tales of people who do bad things for a whole host of reasons, and thus end up either in jail or gone from this world. In the case of 6ix9ine, he was a young man who wanted to be a rapper, yet was willing to do literally anything to get it, and thus went to war with the law, and lost and won multiple times as a result. If he was smart, he'd see the blessing he's gotten and not cause trouble, but that's unlikely, and that alone adds to his cautionary tale. A guy who couldn't control himself, and thus kept getting in trouble. The ultimate fate of 6ix9ine is not written just yet, but he's burned a lot of bridges, and has such an inflated ego that he thinks he's above all of this, and all of us. Whenever he gets that rude awakening, things might get better, or they might get worse. And it's hard to say with Tekashi 6ix9ine. The storm coming. Now let's say that 6ix9ine actually gets released from prison and does not serve life. Let's say he returns to music and becomes a success like he was before. Is that the end of problems for 6ix9ine? Is he finally off the hook from everything? Well, no, he's not. 6ix9ine has two very serious cases that can potentially come his way after this whole Nine Trey Bloods case is off his shoulders. 6ix9ine still has some past offenses following him, one of them being the inappropriate activities that he was accused of doing with a minor years ago for that music video that I brought up earlier. Tekashi always denied ever touching her and denies everything that he was being accused of within that case, but this still might be something that he will have to face in the future. The second offense following Tekashi is a domestic issue that took place with his ex-girlfriend, Sarah Sarah Molina. Now, if you don't know who Sarah Molina is, she's Tekashi's ex-girlfriend, who he has a child with. And the problem is exactly the child they have together. Let me explain. 6ix9ine is being accused of forcing himself on his ex-girlfriend, causing her to become pregnant with their child. And on top of that, he's also accused of hurting Sarah in the past. Pretty serious accusations on both sides. So regardless if 6ix9ine is freed sooner or later, these cases might be something he will be facing in the future and have the potential to put him away for a very long time. But only time will tell if these cases will actually be pointed at Tekashi. And there you have it, a look at 6ix9ine and the things that might just end him back in jail for a very long time. What do you think the path of 6ix9ine's life will be like from here on out? Do you think he'll fall back into his old habits? Or do you think he'll just go and be 6ix9ine again and end up in prison once more? Is his fate inevitable? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe. I'm King Trending, and I'll see you next time.
A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.